Georgina back in the studio from Aspects of Healing. Welcome.
Hi Bianca, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming back. Part 2.
You're welcome.
Let's do it. So last time we were discussing, and we will again this afternoon for part 2, discussing women's health, specifically menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, balancing female hormones from a naturopathic perspective. So now we were just saying a few things off air about the liver. Liver's very important. Well, let's start there.
Yeah, Bianca, I think that's a good place to start. So we talked last time about how women can encounter so many different toxins through their environment over many years, and that they have a cumulative effect. Now, obviously, all of these toxins get stored in the body, and we need our channels of elimination to be working well to get rid of them. And the liver is one of those key organs involved in detoxing the body. And it's particularly important with perimenopausal or menopausal women, because we find as we enter the menopausal phase, our liver function actually slows down a little bit naturally as estrogen declines. So the liver's ability to sort of regenerate itself and to stimulate energy at a cellular level declines. Its overall function and volume and blood flow and everything declines as well around that time, which means effectively we have to work a little bit harder at getting rid of our toxins, and we have to work a little bit harder at supporting our liver to do that job. The liver is so important also in terms of, I guess there's different phases involved with detoxification. The liver really helps to break down estrogen, and particularly, do you remember last time we were talking about the dirty estrogens that we get through conventional, products on the market, like personal care products and cleaning products and things like that. So every different form of estrogen that is absorbed into our body needs to be broken down into less harmful metabolites, and so there's a series of steps that the liver goes through to break it down to really effectively get rid of it. And if the liver's not working well, estrogen can go down different pathways of, it can be converted in different ways. Some of those are more beneficial and some of those are more harmful. So what we want to do when we're supporting women going through perimenopause and menopause is just ensure that all of the phases of detoxification are working well with the liver. Yeah.
So does the liver go back to normal? You said in this time it sort of goes on a bit of a lull. Does it sort of, after post-menopausal phases have passed, what happens to the liver? Back to normal or not?
No, it will never go back to the efficiency that it once had. So we do need to, as a lifelong commitment to ourselves, we need to be looking after our liver. So it's a combination then, I guess, of lifestyle and dietary things that we can be doing that can really have an impact on liver health.
Okay, so what sort of things?
Yeah, so I guess some simple things are obviously from a lifestyle perspective, you want to remove any additional burden on the liver. So the less chemicals, the less toxins that we're taking in through our environment, the better. Yeah. So as we talked about last time, Bianca, opting for all natural products where possible, for putting on our skin as personal care products, cleaning our homes with really nice clean green ingredients, reducing plastics in the kitchen and non-stick cookware and things like that, because they all add to the toxic burden. Trying to drink filtered water is another good way of minimising the burden on our system. And then there are lots that we can do through our diet and through what we consume that can have an impact. So if we look at drinks, for example, less alcohol, like really, not heavy drinking, because that puts a huge strain on our liver. Some beneficial things that we can be drinking are things like a little bit of fresh lemon juice in warm water first thing in the day. That really helps to stimulate bile flow, which helps the liver to be able to break down fats and oils more efficiently. Some women also like to use apple cider vinegar. So in its cloudy form, where you have the mother with the vinegar, if you just take a little shot of that 3 times a day, say you sort of work with about 10 ml at a time, and you just take a little shot before each of your main meals.
Is that like half a teaspoon?
That would be probably 2 teaspoons.
Really? 3 times a day?
Yeah, 3 times a day. Right. So that's another good thing that you can take in to support your liver function. And then there are a lot of foods that can really help to cleanse the liver as well. So carrot and beetroot, which thankfully are available all year round. They're very good for stimulating liver detoxification.
Fantastic.
Things like alfalfa as well, celery, any foods from the brassica family. So they're things like your broccoli, your cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, mustard greens, kale. Did I say kale twice?
Yeah.
I might have.
No,
I didn't. Okay, just once. I love kale. I'm always going on about kale.
How do we eat it? 'Cause it's a bit tough. Do we have to put heat through it?
A lot of people find kale a little bit daunting to start with. I think because a lot of people don't know how to work with it. It is quite a robust leaf. So the secret with kale is if you're going to be using it raw in a salad, it's good to, in terms of preparing kale, you want to actually run your fingers down the rib of the leaf to pull off the softer part of the leaf, and you discard the rib, which is sort of like the stem, so to speak. Then if you chop the kale up quite finely, so it's almost shredded in appearance, if you're using it in a salad, it's good to massage oil into the kale leaves and literally massage the leaves. And if you do that just for a minute or two with olive oil or your preferred oil, then it will soften. The leaves will actually feel automatically a lot softer, and they'll get nice and glossy and shiny, and you'll know that they're ready to eat. If you're using them in heated dishes, it really only needs a couple of minutes of heat. It sautés very quickly and very easily and will reduce in volume, obviously. So you just want to add it right at the end to soups or stews or stir fries and things like that as well.
Oh, good. I'm glad you mentioned kale, because that's one that people stay away from.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
it's a bit tough, or they don't know how to prepare
A
it.
bit unfamiliar.
Good, and that makes sense. The massaging, it sort of break down the bits and pieces that hold it together. Well, I can't remember in my biology class what it was all called. All the fibers and
absolutely. Yeah.
Very nice. What about sprouting? Is that something that's good?
Yeah, sprouting is good. Sprouting generally gives your body a lot more nutrients than eating the grains or the foods in their raw form. So the sprouting actually just multiplies the nutritional value. Alfalfa sprouts particularly are very good for the liver. Yeah.
Excellent. Is that hard to do at home? Is it easy? Do you do it?
I must admit, I don't do it myself at home. I've heard it's very easy to do. You can buy your mixes if you go to a health store. They often will have the mixes and everything you need there to do your own sprouting.
Might be a good idea.
I think so.
Just cut a bit off. It's fresh. It's alive. You know how alive it is. With a store, you don't know how long it's sat there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something to look into. And so what about, you mentioned the non-stick cookware. What's good cookware? Because you go to DJs and wherever and they're all selling it like this is the best thing. And we know very well that some products are very good and others stay away from them.
Yeah.
So which ones do you like? I think someone mentioned the other day Le Creuset is good.
Yes, so anything that's, stainless steel is good to work with. You can also work with cast iron. That's quite so anything that's got that nice heavy base to it. Cast iron is quite a healthy way to cook as well. Really the key is you're just wanting to avoid any cookware that's got the non-stick surfaces because they put a lot of plasticizers and different chemicals in the coating that gives it the non-stick nature.
That's that black glittery stuff.
Yeah.
The coating, that's what it looks like, doesn't it, to the eye? If someone says what does it look like?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So does that leach into the food, or does it only leach into the food when we use, because people say, oh no, it's safe, but it's only when you use a spoon and you sort of scratch it that it's bad. But is that true?
It's actually bad anytime, really. You can sometimes smell it. I don't know if you have sort of smelled like that, a bit of a toxic smell. When you heat up a pan and it's got the non-stick coating, there's like a smell that wafts through the kitchen sometimes, and that's a bit of a gauge that it's not healthy for you. And then, yes, you're correct. If you do scratch the pan, then that makes it more likely to leach into food and, again, to have even more harmful effects on the body.
But we have to know about all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
We wonder why we're getting sick as a human race.
Yeah.
you know, we go to the doctor, that people are diagnosed with something and they say, oh, what caused it, or how can I avoid it, or this and that, and doctors a lot of the time don't know, which is understandable. They don't know. Everyone has a different lifestyle. So what is it? There's so many factors. So we have to sort of look within at what we're doing too.
That's right.
What about, like, look, a lot of people are on medications too in this current day and age, and I suppose that would have a bit of a load on the liver. So people that really need their medications, you know, perhaps, I mean, I shouldn't sort of say always the elderly, but you know, often as we do get older, there are more people on medication. So those people are worried. I have spoken to a few of those individuals and they say, well, I need my meds. So what do I do? How do I help my liver? How do I stay avoiding Alzheimer's and things like that, you know, with the toxic load of lots of meds?
I think,
again, liver?
Yeah, I think you make a good point. A lot of people are on quite a number of medications, and especially as they get a little bit older, that tendency does rise even more so. I think it's good to take an integrative approach. So to be talking both to your doctor and perhaps to a natural medicine practitioner about how they could support you whilst you're taking those medications, because sometimes certain medications might deplete our body of critical nutrients that we actually need. And menopausal women are no different. You know, we all need specific nutrients as we come into that time of our life. You know, some of those nutrients are really important for things like energy production in the body, for example, or cardiovascular health and well-being. So it's good to sort of be open to supplementing alongside medications. And that's where it's important to consult with a qualified health practitioner. So a natural medicine health practitioner they'll always be willing to take an integrative approach. That's our role. You know, we accept that not everybody lives a perfectly lean, green life. And people need to take medications for various reasons, and some of those are very valid reasons. So we always pick up and run with whatever we need to work with, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And what are some good natural products? You know, I mean, we did mention a few last time, but some good natural products. Everyone's after a really good deodorant and I don't know, toothpaste. What else do we put? Shampoo, conditioner, and things. And avoid nail polishes and nail polish removers. I saw a video the other day and I thought, oh my gosh, if women saw that, they wouldn't polish their toenails. They wouldn't polish their fingernails. They wouldn't get those acrylics on. Yeah,
that's right. I think it's always a good place to start is a health store, because they've got quite a range of different natural products. And, you know, we're all drawn to certain products for a particular reason, and there's no one size fits all. We're humans, we're beautiful, we're unique, we have our different preferences. So when it comes to shampoos and conditioners, you know, there are so many different ingredients that can go into even the natural brands. It's good just to have a bit of a look around at what's out there, what's an option, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there was any that you loved, you know, and said, you know, this is so good, this works. Anything?
Yeah. Well, I quite like the Woohoo deodorant. It's a cream-based deodorant, which I think I talked about last time. I like that it's so nourishing on the skin, and I find it's quite long-lasting as well in terms of, you know, keeping away any body odour if you're sort of working for a long period of time or being a bit active. I'm trying to think, I use a shampoo and conditioner that is actually South Australian made as well. I think it's made down in the Lonsdale area. I think it's called, I could have this wrong, but I think it's Nature's Quest.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if
is that the white bottle?
Yeah, it's a white bottle.
Oh, the big ones.
Yeah, they've got them in big and smaller sizes as well.
Yes.
They've got quite a nice range of products. Yeah.
I have used that. So no chemicals in it? Very
minimal ingredients generally. That's what I was really drawn to on the label. I'm somebody who I spend ages in, one of those annoying people, I spend ages in the supermarket aisle or in the health food aisle reading everything on the label, because I'm passionate about not putting anything in my body that doesn't make sense to me. And less is more. I've always believed that less is more. Keep it simple. And that's what I love about this brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Mm.
Now, have you heard about copper, drinking from a copper cup?
I haven't heard a lot about copper cups.
Oh,
No.
okay. No, I just thought I'd mention it as a side thing because I bought some a couple of years ago, and I was using them, and then I put them away because like anything in life, everything in moderation. You can't sort of drink from the copper cup, every day. You've got to sort of, it's a bit like, if you're going to have kale every day for 6 months, you've got to have a break. You've got to, perhaps move to another vegetable.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the same thing.
Absolutely.
That I've been drinking, I brought it out again last week and drinking from the copper cup. And if people just Google it, I'll let them sort of do their own research. But you've got to sort of have a look at a few different, sites, but it's very good. It cleans the water. I mean, remember when this, I don't like saying, the C19, right? I don't like even saying the word because I just want to stay away from it.
Same.
But in the beginning, I did hear a lot of people saying that the copper, bugs and viruses and bacteria doesn't live on copper.
Okay.
And I remember people talking about that in the beginning, saying, people preparing food on a copper bench, in India and things like that. It's worth researching. And so that sort of got me thinking. And then I started drinking out of this copper cup. And have you heard of Satguru? It's an Indian sort of mystic philosopher gentleman, Satguru. And he said as well, drinking from copper is very good. It just sort of kills the bugs in the water, cleans the water, and the water tastes different. It really does taste different.
Yeah, that's interesting. I must research that a bit more. I know that in Ayurveda they use copper tongue scrapers, and that's something that we actually sell at Aspects of Healing. We sell 2 different types of tongue scraper, and the copper ones, I always think they look beautiful. I love the colour of copper, but it must also confer some really beneficial effects. So the only thing I would say, Bianca, is, before you were saying it's important to have everything in moderation. I think it is important for listeners to know that sometimes we can overdo. If we single out one nutrient and we overdo that nutrient, it can sometimes deplete us of another nutrient that's equally as valuable to the human body. So, for example, copper and zinc often work in competition with one another, and a lot of us can be deficient in zinc at different times of our life. And zinc is an incredibly important nutrient, particularly for menopausal women. It's one of the nutrient cofactors that's needed to help estrogen to bind at its receptors. So that's just a little seed I'm going to plant. Just moderation, I think, is key.
Exactly. So what you're saying is not too much copper.
Not too much. You can have too much
because the copper interferes with zinc.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly. Zinc. So that means we've got to eat more oysters. Yes. And
the women out there who are maybe noticing a little bit of a drop in their libido, a good option.
Because that happens too around menopause?
It does.
Right.
It can do. For a lot of women.
Can it go the other way?
Yes.
I was just thinking of someone who said something to me about a month ago, and I thought, really?
I have heard that too.
Right.
Yeah.
See, and we're all different.
We are.
We're all different. Right. Now, did we talk about gluten yet? No.
We haven't.
No. That might be something worth just touching on briefly.
Yeah, sure. So you asked me earlier, Bianca, before we started the interview today, how I felt about gluten and whether we need it as human beings. In my opinion, I would say no, absolutely not. There are so many wonderful foods we can include in our diets that don't contain gluten. I don't see any reason why we need gluten. I'm living proof of that.
Yes.
I'm a celiac, so I eat a gluten-free diet, and I very rarely would have a sense of missing out on anything. I do feel happier in my own body for having eliminated it. Obviously, when you're a celiac, that you have a very valid reason for eliminating gluten. But I would say more broadly for women who are thinking about what they could eliminate maybe to improve their health and well-being, for a lot of women, gluten can aggravate the immune system, and it can contribute to autoimmune conditions and inflammation in the body, and it can, for menopausal women, also exacerbate some of the musculoskeletal conditions that they experience.
So what's autoimmune?
So autoimmune is where the body's immune system can sometimes misread proteins that are absorbed into the bloodstream. So when our food is broken down, food's always broken down into smaller molecules, and when they pass through into the bloodstream, the immune system is scanning and monitoring everything. And if it sees something like dairy or gluten, for example, sometimes it can confuse those for a pathogen, and it mounts like a response. It starts to attack the human body in response to some of those triggers. I'm not saying that happens for everybody, but for a lot of people, those things really can exacerbate the immune system. And autoimmunity can play out in so many weird and wonderful ways in the human body. Particularly, I always think about thyroid, because a lot of women of our age group are having changes in thyroid function, and there's commonly quite a bit of autoimmunity that can affect the thyroid gland. So women can have Hashimoto's, which is an underactive thyroid, and that can wreak havoc on hormones generally. Or they can go the other way, they can have Graves', which is more overactive or hyperactive thyroid.
Do you deal with those two conditions?
I do, yeah. I've
Really?
worked a lot with thyroid conditions over the years.
Gee.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying like a couple of weeks ago that iodine helps with the thyroid.
Yeah, it can do.
So we can buy salt with iodine in it. So I've been using Himalayan salt, and I hope someone said at the health store that iodine, sort of salt with iodine's better, or just as good, to change it up.
I'm somebody who believes in whole food medicine, food as medicine, and I think that foods were created in their whole form for a reason, because they have a lot of synergistic compounds in them that exert beneficial properties in our bodies. And I would say with something like Himalayan sea salt, if it's authentic Himalayan sea salt, or even Celtic sea salt, they're naturally very rich in lots of valuable minerals, including iodine. So I'm personally a little bit loath to recommend a food that's has been so heavily refined that nutrients have been stripped away from it, that the manufacturers feel that they have to put the nutrients back into it.
That's true.
I find that a very intriguing concept.
Oh, exactly, like cereal with iron added or whatever they put in it. And I think, how do they put it in? Or what do they call it? Fortified.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of fortified foods out there on the market. So I would actually say revert back to your whole mineral form of salt, being the Himalayan sea salt. You can consider seaweed. Seaweed is a very good source of iodine for women in menopausal phase of their lives. And you can use that in lots of beautiful ways. So whether it's sushi rolls, or just adding wakame flakes or dulse flakes into broths and soups and stews or stir fries, that gives you a nice hit of iodine. Even spirulina would be another example of something you could integrate in as a food that you could mix into a smoothie, for example, that would give you a nice strong hit of that as well.
Very good. Now, I'm just curious, so what foods would we miss out on if we have to have a gluten-free diet?
The one food that I feel sad about is oats. And I think
they've got gluten.
Yeah, oats naturally have gluten in them. And I know that there are some products out there that you can buy that say that they're gluten-free oats, but there's actually no such thing. Again, I think there's a sort of a labelling loophole. I guess the labelling regulations vary from country to country. And I think you can find oats that have been produced in an area that has minimal contact with other gluten-containing grains. So the amount of gluten might be a bit less, but oats in their actual, if you break them down to their basic structural forms, their molecules, gluten is one of those ingredients in oats. So I always think oats are such a beautiful food because they're so nourishing on the nervous system, and a lot of women actually can benefit from eating oats for breakfast as porridge or as raw muesli, because it's a nervine, it's a tonic for our nervous system. good if we're if we're suffering with anxiety or depression or sleep issues. We're finding it hard to calm the overactive mind. Oats are really a wonderful food for that. But of course, they do contain gluten. So if you're a celiac, definitely avoid them. If you're gluten intolerant, I would also avoid oats.
Okay.
But there are alternatives. That's what I like to always tell women.
What's the alternative to oats?
For me, it's quinoa. I use quinoa as a porridge, as an alternative to oats.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Because that's full of what, amino acids, isn't it? A lot of protein?
Got lots of protein in it and lots of essential fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory as well. Got lots of zinc in them as well, which is good for the estrogen binding. So they're almost a complete protein source in their own right. They just fall a little bit short, so they're not as good a source of protein as something like an egg would be. But if you add some other nuts and seeds to the quinoa, then you can bump up that protein profile.
Okay. What else? Bread? But you can get gluten-free bread.
You can get gluten-free
gluten-free
bread.
pasta.
You can, but again, read the labels, because a lot of those foods can be quite heavily refined and processed.
Really?
So you know, a lot of gluten-free pastas out there in the market might be white in appearance. They might be made from rice or corn as a base. They release sugar very quickly into the bloodstream, but then you get your bloodstream drops, the sugar level in bloodstream can drop, and that's when you can get even worse mood swings, or your concentration can fade in and out, or you can feel a bit fatigued because you're not having the nice stabilized blood sugar. So if you are going to go for something gluten-free, I would say look for the browner foods, the darker foods are always going to be a better choice. So, for example, a buckwheat pasta or a brown rice pasta, or better still, swap out, ignore the pasta and use vegetables as your noodles, for example, like zucchini noodles or carrot noodles.
Aren't they the best?
Using a spiralizer, because that can be
kind of fun. Sounds like you've heard of Christina, raw vegan Christina on YouTube.
No,
She's got millions of followers. What's she called? Raw with Christina or something? Christina, raw with Christina. Anyway, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she makes amazing foods.
Yeah.
And that zucchini noodles really good with a creamy sauce. So she says she feels like she's not missing out. She makes a cashew sauce and it's delicious, satiating, nourishing, no bloating, flat stomach. You know, she's had a creamy pasta. How good's that?
Absolutely. Or if you're making an alternative to lasagna, you can use like thin sheets of zucchini, like very thinly sliced zucchini sheets or eggplant or whatever it might be as a substitute. So,
and it can taste good.
It can taste good.
Because you add, like you said last time, nutritional yeast, which has got the salty, cheesy thing. It sort of tastes like cheese, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's vegan.
Yeah.
What else gives things flavour?
Well, the nuts that you referred to earlier, I love adding nuts, you know, if you're creating them into like a butter or a sauce, or even just sprinkling them over your pasta.
So you get a crunch.
Yeah, so it's a textural thing, but it's protein as well. You always need to be thinking about protein, and menopausal women, I'm happy to talk about very, particular foods that menopausal women need to be including, but protein is way up there.
Really?
Yeah, so nuts are a great source of protein.
But like you said, quinoa is great protein.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about, I've been using buckwheat flour and a chickpea flour. I don't know if you've tried those as little pancakes, a healthy pancake.
Yeah, that's a good option.
Carrot on top.
Yeah, that's a good option. Buckwheat, I really like buckwheat.
You do that, pancakes?
Yeah, I do sometimes, very rarely.
Yeah.
But I'm open to buckwheat pancakes.
Yeah, it sounds like not good food when you say pancake, but it's really just chickpeas, just chickpea in a flour, and you add water and maybe a bit of cumin powder or something. It's like medicine. It doesn't bloat. No. It's just you're getting all your vitamins, and you could call it flatbread or something. You could call it a bread if you don't want to call it pancake.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when people say pancake, they think it's something bad, but okay, a flatbread.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many things we can eat, and it tastes good, and really lead to good health.
Definitely.
Because we still want to enjoy food.
Absolutely.
You know, we shouldn't deny our body. There's a lot of people
No.
out there, I think we all know people that they don't want to eat because they want to fit into the size 8 jeans. I get it. You know, that's how we're conditioned in this Western world.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation altogether. Malnutrition. People walking around just not eating. Living on 2 coffees a day and sometimes eating a meal and then skipping a few days of food. That is so bad for the brain,
Absolutely.
the heart muscle,
the soul. Like it from a mindset perspective, it's just you taking yourself down a road of deprivation, and you feel like you know. I think it's always better to not focus on, like, if you work with a naturopath or an Ayurvedic practitioner and they're asking you to eliminate certain foods, they have particular reasons for asking you to do that. But rather than focusing on all the foods that you're eliminating, focus on the foods that you're having instead. So what are you swapping those foods with? What better options are you swapping your foods with? You know? So yeah, I just think it's a mindset thing, isn't it? It's just shifting the focus to what could I be putting into my body that's actually going to work in my favour more so.
That's right, to make the machine work better. Like we said, the body's a machine. I mean, we need to feed it.
Absolutely.
That's another topic, isn't it? Do you come across that? Women that are malnutrition, they don't eat enough, they're too thin?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think women can be incredibly unkind to themselves, put so much pressure on themselves in so many ways, and I think we can all too easily get caught in a bit of a trap. So I'm a big believer in working on the mindset, like reframing our thoughts and changing our relationship with food.
Beautiful relationship with food. All my brain's ticking now. Things that might be another segment, maybe in a month or so.
Yeah.
Interesting. Georgina, you are like a walking blessing. You know all this knowledge and little encyclopedia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you.